Jeff Little is CEO of the National Security Inspectorate. Jeff, you're speaking in the Security Management Education Theatre at IFSEC International 2012 and offering a State of the Security Nation address. What do you see as a key issue facing the security sector in the UK at present?
I think the sector's in good order compared with what it was 7 or 8 years ago, and I think one reflection of that is the fact that police services are now having the confidence to look at outsourcing not just some of their back office support functions to private contractors, but also what I would class as frontline policing tasks. And Surrey Police and the West Midlands Police are pioneering this, with Lincolnshire Police perhaps being in the news recently with their contracts. So I think that's a very important change in the security landscape. I think it offers opportunities, and although we're in the age of austerity, and obviously companies will suffer because government contracts at local and national level will be drawn in, nevertheless there are going to be opportunities for companies to capture the outsourcing opportunities that austerity measures are bringing. So I think it's a time of opportunity, Brian.
Where do you see technology taking this sector in the years to come, Jeff?
Well, I think which bit of technology and where do you start is the question, but in terms of alarm systems, certainly wireless is creeping in all over the place. And I talked to a company yesterday who said they have never and will never fit a conventional wired alarm system. Wireless is the way forward. From a standards point of view, that leaves us in some interesting challenges because the pace of change is so quick that it's difficult to keep the standards and the codes of conduct going at a pace to keep pace with them. So I think cybersecurity obviously is another area where IT is going to dominate the issue. And I had a chap on one of our training courses at Sentinel House on Wednesday who said he's not a security officer, he's an IT professional. He's been sent in to learn about security because in the future he is going to be the hub of the security operation run from the IT operations centre. So that's some things to think about.
Now, in terms of response mechanisms and opportunities, Jeff, what will the landscape look like, do you feel, in the future?
Interestingly, one area is response to alarms, Brian. Certainly some fire and rescue services now have gone against the CFO policy and said that they won't be responding to automatic alarms unless there is some other form of confirmation. And you can see why they want to do that. Despite all the efforts, the number of false alarms rate is still high and the number of blue light movements is still high as well. So we've got to try and reduce that. But is that another opportunity for the industry to look at some form of response, not just to a security alarm, but perhaps to a fire alarm system? And again, is there a technological solution rather than a manned solution in order to reduce the false alarm rate further and improve the response capabilities? It all comes down to a corporate risk assessment, but I think boards are going to be much more involved in that corporate risk assessment in the future when they look at the risk to their premises and their property and their people.
Now, convergence as a subject is dominating the security professions landscape at the moment. What's your take on the matter, Jeff?
I think if you ask 4 people what convergence meant to them, you get about 10 different answers, Brian. To me, it was the perhaps convergence of systems and manned guarding in some form. But it seems to be going much wider than that now, and it seems to be all-inclusive, perhaps pulling in cyber, IT security, and other functions and facilities management as well. And I was reviewing our risk register last week, and I'm still convinced that one of the biggest security risks we have to my building is the cleaning staff who come in at night. We don't know whether their vetting is in date and who else has come along, and if they wanted to do something nasty, then they could. Similarly with catering, if you wanted to take out a company's board, then the risk to polluting or poisoning their lunch during a board meeting is pretty high, and I think we need to look at this. And in the past, perhaps terrorists and criminals have not been, thankfully, as inventive as they perhaps might have been. But if they do decide to go down that route, then I think there are some real risks in that area. So I think you've got to look at convergence in a number of different ways. It means lots of things to lots of people. But I think it pulls in the whole of the facilities management area, the IT area, and I think we'll find that in the future there will be much more of a one single centric focus for fire, security and facilities management on a day-to-day basis. And that will be electronically enabled, which brings the technology back into loop. And I think it's that convergence of all the various systems that really is the issue in convergence.
We still don't know at present what the regulation roadmap will look like going forward. What are your hopes for the ratified document that emerges from government?
No, I think we both attended the SIA conference up in Sheffield towards the end of last year, and that clearly set out the route ahead. So we're all waiting, I think, with bated breath to see how that pans out. From my side of life, from the NSI view, obviously we want to improve standards. And I'll be particularly interested in what is the SIA's view about the replacement for the current ACS scheme, which there are over, I think, 700 members, 5 certification bodies looking at those members, and those members have invested a lot of money and a lot of time and effort in bringing their systems up to the necessary requirement. I think that's a good thing, and I think that should be continued. I think when the basic level of business licensing comes out, there is probably a desire in those companies, in the industry, to have some form of higher level recognition for the effort that they've put in already, and a desire to see people strive to improve their processes and their systems in order to reach that higher level. So I think there's a number of issues there. So we wait for the final product with bated breath.
Thank you very much indeed, Jeff.